Hello, everybody. Thank you for showing up on time and early. If you're here a few minutes early, we really appreciate it. We're going to give a few more seconds, maybe like 30 more seconds to let some other people filter in because we do see more people jumping in right now. So appreciate your patience, and we'll kick this thing off in the next 30 seconds or so. While we wait, I do have a joke. It's a pretty good one. Why didn't the astronaut have a party in space? Because he couldn't plan it. So that's my dad joke for the day. Hopefully we got a couple chuckles out there. And so I'd say we kick things off here. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be going over some security issues and how Microsoft 365 security features can help you and your organization. My name is Nick. I'm the sales manager here at AlphaBOLD, and I am joined by Kawajak Barma. He is our senior system engineer, and his main focus is on IT security solutions for customers from small businesses to the enterprise level. He'll be taking us through the majority of today's presentation, as well as doing a little demo at the end so you guys can see a little bit behind the scenes of everything that we're showcasing. So for today's agenda, what we'll first look at is why security is so important for every business, no matter what size you are. Then we'll look at how Microsoft 365 can make sure your operations are secure. After that, we'll go over how best to plan and implement security and enable secure remote work, as that is very important these days. We will then look into the foundation for security, identity security, email protection, and data governance. So let me set up something for you here. Let's say you just received a call from your boss and they have been hacked. Their email's being used by someone else and thousands of dollars are missing from your company's operating accounts. They're stressed and asking you, how could this happen? What happened here? What would you say? Are you prepared to answer those questions and tell them why your company wasn't better prepared? Well, today we will learn how to answer that and prepare you and your company, that is, to avoid these situations. So before we kick things off here, I would like to launch a poll and kind of see where everybody's at and how they feel their security is. So first poll is live. How secure do you think your organization's network is? Not secure. You are scared of anything coming your way. You have security. You think you are, but you probably can see some improvements, or we got this covered. We're just seeing what else is out there. So we got a lot of responses coming in. This is great. Looks like half the people here feel like you are secure to a certain extent. So about 50% of you. We got about 15% saying not secure, and then looks like 40% saying highly secure. So that's great. Good to see. All right, gonna close this one up. Thank you guys for your responses. Now I'm gonna do one more, and that is, what do you consider to be your greatest security risk? Is it hacking attempts, email viruses, malware, internet downloads, just bad configurations? Love to know kind of what you guys are thinking here. Okay, so getting a lot of email viruses are a big concern for people. Hacking's coming in second. That's good to see. Well, not good to see, but okay, malware is stepping it up. Few people are saying internet downloads, which is understandable. We'll leave this open for another couple seconds, but we do appreciate your responses. It kind of helps us gear our presentations in the future. So I will close this up and we will move on. Thank you again for all your responses. Really appreciate it. So let's jump into it. First, let's define cloud security. Cloud security is a set of policies, controls, procedures, and technologies that work together to protect cloud-based systems, data, and infrastructure. Essentially, it's a way for people to use online services and with confidence and not have to worry about any of these threats that we mentioned before. So Let's move on to a common misconception, and that is that small businesses don't necessarily need advanced security because hackers want to target larger businesses. In reality, small businesses are targeted because they don't often have advanced security measures, and it makes it much easier for these hackers to attack them. We'll move on to the next slide. And on this slide, you're going to see some pretty staggering statistics here. 50% of small businesses experienced an attack last year, and 61% of those businesses weren't able to operate after that attack until they brought in a cybersecurity professional. You can imagine, not only are you dealing with the security breach and data loss, but also the cost of just downtime in general, and then getting back up and running. It's a big deal that you need to protect against. So I'd like to set up another scenario that's way too common. One of your employees receives an email with a link to a secure document and asks, you need to enter your credentials to see this document. So they put in their email and they put in their password to see it, but it fails to load. Well, they tried, they're busy, they're moving on with their day, and they forget about that glitch they had where they couldn't download the document. Unfortunately, what they've just done is delivered their username and password to a hacker who can now access their email and other accounts that are online. Online threats can happen in many different ways, and that's just one of them, and it's the most common one. And unfortunately, with these types of instances, there's no discrimination on who they target. So let's look at a couple of the other threats that you'll see. First on the list is phishing, which is what I just outlined. This is when an attacker masquerades as a person you might know and then requests sensitive information via email. This is the most common attack used globally today, and without proper understanding of this threat, information is easily stolen. Second on that list is ransomware. It's often easier to trick someone with ransomware because it can be hidden in links and documents. Such an example is a download of malicious software. It can block access to systems and demands money to unlock that infected device. It can also spread some of this ransomware to other devices and computers if they are connected to that corporate network. To put this in perspective on how costly this can be, the University of California, San Francisco was attacked last June. They ended up paying $1.14 million to the attackers. This is really scary stuff and not a position you want to find yourself in. That third on the list is fileless. It uses malicious scripts to hijack legitimate software and loads malware into the memory without saving a file to the system. Very few people notice if they've had fileless attacks or not. And unless you see another ID online with your personal information on it, it's possible you'll never know that you've been hacked that way. That final one on the list is a live off the land attack. This attack makes malware harder to detect. It uses trusted software and the system tools to carry out their work. And examples are administrative shells or pirated antivirus programs. This makes it really difficult to detect or determine who is behind these attacks, leaving you and your company very vulnerable. So as we go through and learn more and more about the different threats that are out there, it can become really stressful to think about how to stay safe. And that's kind of why we're here today, to show you how Microsoft can actually take those stresses off your hands and keep you, your employees, and your organization safe. So this is where I am going to pass it off to Farman. He's going to take you through the rest of the presentation, but I will be monitoring the questions on the side. So if you do have any, just enter them in the questions box and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. All right, take it away. You are on mute, by the way.
Thank you for the great overview. Sorry, it's a common mistake everybody makes. So thank you for the great overview, Nick, on the importance of security. And hi, everyone. Now, let's quickly start with and get aware of the active threats available in the cloud today. And to be honest, it was just some of the top ones that we had narrowed down for your learning. But as heard best, where there's a will, there's always a way. Rest assured, with Microsoft, there always is. With that perspective, let's discuss our security foundation now, to build a stronger niche around our understanding of security and its perception. And there is no better way to start with that without mentioning an example. As by a survey done on security, it was identified that IT is a top priority for business and enterprise customers around the globe. I'm sure none of this is a surprise to anyone, because I'm also sure each one of you have personal stories about how your colleagues or users have faced an attack. You can range from getting hit by ransomware and transferring money or simple phishing. As we try to understand the Microsoft security offerings, we need to also understand the need for security. Why is security important to us? Let's reiterate our concepts again with an example. Let's say if I ask you guys, where do you keep your savings, your valuables? Do you keep it at your home, knowing that you're near to it, knowing it's more secure with you keeping a check on it on a daily basis, or do you put it in a bank and be at ease with the security that a vault at a bank provides? The physically dedicated security that is targeted only towards keeping your investment or savings secure. I for sure keep my savings at the bank, and about 96% of people around the globe would agree with me on that. As it adds more value to my day-to-day tasks, benefits me with flexible payments through secure channels, swipes on the go, easy access and trackability to what I secured at the bank. That is why we believe managing security and compliance is a partnership. You're responsible for protecting your data, identities, devices, while Microsoft vigorously protects Microsoft 365 services. Its security protection vouches for encryption of your company data, no worries about data loss due to hardware or software failures, optimization, an option to implement own backups to protect against errors in case of administrative failures, but most importantly, its dedication and commitment to being secure in the cloud by investing $1 billion per year in cybersecurity research and development. That's a whole lot of great security protection for small businesses to start with, and also for enterprise existing in the cloud. In addition to all that, there are other great features that are available to Microsoft 365 customers on Collaborative Cloud. Let's see what is more to come in our security foundation. So we have a quick licensing overview for you all, as essentially Microsoft offers basic security features to all their customers with the minimum subscription that they might be on. But now let's see which security licensing feature it has to offer in order to stay ahead of the existing cyber threats. In here, we get to see a minimal to maximum security features that Microsoft 365 is promising their customers on a business to enterprise licensing. In a cost starting at $12, we have Azure Active Directory, single sign-on, device registration, and user group management, and such on a business standard license. Then at $20, we get a better mix of security in a package solution of Microsoft 365 Business Premium and Office Enterprise E3, which includes Azure Active Directory Advanced Features PAM 1, Azure Information Protection PAM 1, compliance and device management with cloud app security. Whereas we believe Microsoft Business Premium has more to offer in comparison to the security that Office Enterprise E3 is currently offering. If you have a user base of 0 to 300 seats, this is a great fit for you. Now, at a range of $35 to $57, you get the best that Microsoft has to offer as an enterprise. With a whole lot of collaboration feature, it includes the advanced security, including Windows protection, advanced threat protection, cloud app security, and data protection. Microsoft 365 E5 has Microsoft Defender with security support assist on demand, which packs all the power you need as an enterprise with the best cybersecurity resources readily available to help you out. As now we have gotten a quick overview of the prices and the features, let's start with seeing what our first glance at security should be as a new or an existing customer. We have information protection lined up with first, which focuses on implementing the process of data governance in enterprise systems, which is considered as a high-end demand. All organizations aim to manage and secure the integrity of their data based on internal data standards and policies. This, however, is not an easy task. Organizations all over the world are facing numerous compliance issues and requirements that mandate not only understanding where the sensitive data remains, but also protecting it. Microsoft Data Governance best practices help ensure the optimization of data in the best way for analytics across organizational and functional barriers. Here are some quick suggestions you can follow to improve your information protection journey, which includes recommendations like implementation of access reviews, classification of data with sensitivity labels, configuration of policies for data loss protection on storage units such as OneDrive and SharePoint, and limiting external access onto site collections for SharePoint or OneDrive to control exposure to external resources or for your business critical data. But your journey begins as an organizational admin or a business decision maker to make sure you have a strategy in place for protecting your business data. For that, we have recommendations. Your organization may be subjected to regional data privacy regulations that require you to protect, manage, and provide rights and control over personal information that can be stored in your IT infrastructure. It can be in the cloud as well as in the on-premises as well. The best example of a data privacy regulation is the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, also known as GDPR. Failure to comply with data privacy regulations can result in substantial fines. For that, ask yourself to set out a data protection strategy. We can begin with that. Where is this business critical data in your organization? Do you have control over the data while it transits inside and outside of your organization? Are you classifying your data or protecting it while it's being moved or accessed? To refine that strategy, we use the common principle given to us by Microsoft. As Microsoft offers the ability to implement the necessary controls to meet both internal and external security and compliance requirements, which starts with knowing your data, protecting your data, and governing your data, which includes a common approach to data classification. Organizations of all sizes are constrained by their available resources, maybe financial, can be people, and also time. To achieve an effective return on investment, organizations must prioritize where they'll invest. Implementation of security across the organization is also constrained by this. So to achieve an appropriate return on investment on security, the organization needs to first understand and define its security priorities. With that, we start our journey with the principle Microsoft has provided us. At a first glance on governance, we ask our customers, how is this organization security going to be monitored, audited, and reported? How does the organization know that things are actually working? Are they improving? Are there new requirements? Is there any mandatory reporting similar to the compliance? There may be external industry, government, or regulatory standards that need to be considered. After finalizing on the governance parameters, we move forward towards the risk that we can face for our business critical data. For that, we assess our risk based on what types of risks does the organization face. While trying to protect identifiable information, intellectual property, financial information, and also recalling the fact that who may be entrusted or could leverage this information if stolen, including in external and internal threats, as well as unintentional or malicious access. A common forgotten but extremely important consideration within risk is addressing disaster recovery and business continuity. So at the end, we bring the strategy together with focusing on compliance by assuring if there are specific industry, government, or regulatory requirements that dictate or provide recommendations on criteria that your organization's security controls must meet. After devising out a strategy for remaining compliant and protected, we can start with Compliance Manager. This is your answer and your solution for data protection. Microsoft Compliance Manager is a feature in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center that helps you manage your organization's compliance requirement with great ease and convenience. Compliance Manager can help you throughout your compliance journey, from taking inventory of your data protection risks to managing the complexity of implementing controls and staying current with regulations and certifications, and also helps you report to the auditors. Your Compliance Manager dashboard shows your current compliance score on the first glance, helps you see what needs attention, and guides you to key improvement actions. Compliance Manager awards you points for completing improvement actions taken to comply with the regulation, standard, or a policy, and combining those points into an overall compliance score. Each action has a different impact on your score, depending on the potential risk involved. Your compliance score can help prioritize which action to focus on to improve your overall compliance posture. It also gives you an initial score based on the Microsoft 365 data protection baselines. The baseline is a set of controls that includes key regulations and standards for data protection and general data governance. So we can see that today the concept is that the data is born to be shared. You can use Microsoft 365 data governance solution and block sensitive data from being shared through sensitivity labels. Once you map your data, you can start protecting your data, as this entire journey starts from the first big thing, which is the idea of sensitivity. So we can use sensitivity labels from Microsoft Information Protection Framework, which lets you classify and protect your organization's data without hindering the productivity of your users and their ability to collaborate. To understand the working of sensitivity labels, we can review an example. Let's say an employee from accounting applies a confidential label to a document or an email, and that label encrypts the content and applies a confidential watermark. Content markings will now include headers and footer as well as a watermark. It can also encrypt and restrict what actions authorized people can take on the content. This way, accounting can route out important billing information internally and externally, depending on the permissions they have set. It makes your data sharing and permission sets easier to manage and control. But there are some key things that you need to remember while using sensitivity labels. There are sensitivity labels for sites, groups, and teams at the container level. The settings do not apply to the content inside the container itself. These are published to users and groups who apply them when a site, group, or team is provisioned. There also exist sensitivity labels for active contents as well. They are also published to users or groups who either manually apply them or they get applied automatically whenever they meet the following conditions, like opening a file, editing, or saving it, either to the user's desktop or a SharePoint site, while you're drafting an email or it's being sent. There are sensitivity labels for automatic applications to files at rest in SharePoint and OneDrive, in addition to emails in transit through Exchange. These are targeted to either all the sites or specific ones and automatically apply to the files at rest in these environments. So today's digital transformation from mobile devices to embedded systems, hypervisors to social media applications, and the proliferation of connected devices has created a borderless network parameter with multiple attack vectors. To adjust to this technology revolution, organizations need to ensure the most sensitive data and assets are secure. For that, you can use data loss prevention and Microsoft 365 to detect, warn, and block risky, inadvertent, or inappropriate sharing, such as sharing of data containing personal information, both internally and externally. DLP allows you to identify and monitor risky sharing activities, educates user in context guiding in making the right decisions, enforces data use policies upon content without inhibiting productivity, and then integrating the DLP with classification and labels to detect and protect data when it's being shared. With the DLP policy in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, you can identify and monitor and automatically protect sensitive items across many locations in Microsoft 365, such as Exchange Online for your email services, SharePoint and OneDrive for your file storage, and Microsoft Teams for your collaboration. For example, you can identify any document containing a credit card number that's stored in any OneDrive site, or you can monitor just the OneDrive sites of specific people. You can also monitor and protect sensitive items in the locally installed versions of Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, which includes the ability to identify sensitive items and apply the DLP policies. It provides continuous monitoring when people share content from these Office apps. Let's discuss an example of DLP users with a health record in a hospital. So DLP can be implemented in a hospital to identify a document or email containing a health record, and then automatically blocking access to that document or also blocking the email from being sent. DLP then notifies the recipient with a policy tip and sends an alert to the end user, an admin, for the attempt of sharing critical business information. The best part about sensitivity labels and DLP is that they can work together to provide data privacy in a highly regulated environment. Next up, we have email encryption. We know for sure that people often use emails to exchange sensitive items, such as patient health information, as we discussed in a previous example, or customer and employer information. Emo message encryption helps ensure that only intended recipients can view message content. With Office encryption, you can send and receive encrypted messages between people inside and outside of your organization. It works with Outlook.com, Yahoo, Gmail, and other email services as well. It ensures that only intended recipients can view message content. For data privacy, you can use Office message encryption to protect internal messages containing sensitive items. You can also define MailFlow rules to apply this protection. For example, you can create a rule that requires the encryption of all messages addressed to a specific recipient, or that contains specific keywords in the subject line. And you can also specify that the recipient can't copy or print the content of the message if it includes a certain sensitive document. So any questions so far, Nick?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to get your opinion on what are the most common data protection threats that you are seeing people face today?
So just to answer your question perfectly, the most common data protection threats in today's times are employees lacking proper data security training, lapses for patch management systems, failing to hire the right data security talent or the right security solution. It is also known in a recent Juniper research study that the threat for data is increasing in its potential and is making a financial impact globally. In fact, it's predicted that the cost of data breaches will reach about 2.1 trillion globally by 2021.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you.
Great. So with that, we'll move towards the factor that so we're not done with completing our information protection journey just yet. It's just the start. Next up, we have identity management. When evaluating an identity and access management platform, the benefits far outweigh any drawbacks. That said, only a few identity and access management risks needs to be considered when designing an identity access management implementation and ongoing maintenance processes. For example, it is important to note that as you begin to centralize the management of usernames and authentication mechanism, the process creates a much bigger security target. As a result, it's essential to bake security into your IAM deployment from day one. This includes the necessary firewall and intrusion prevention systems, IPS protection, as well as the creation of strict access policies that significantly limit who has access to manage the platform. With that being said, Microsoft ensures access for a connected world around the globe. Let's now discuss what we mean by that and how it is easier with Microsoft. Microsoft score is a measurement of an organization's security posture, with a higher number indicating more improvement actions taken. So this is your solution to being secure with your identity management. And following the secure score recommendations can protect your organization from threats. Organizations can also monitor and work on the security of the Microsoft 365 identities, app, and devices only through Microsoft Secure Score. So Secure Score helps organizations report on the current state of the organization's security posture. It improves the security posture by providing discoverability, visibility, guidance, and control. It compares itself with benchmarks and established key performance indicators. A great way to learn about all the security features that you have available to you is through Microsoft Secure Score. We recently put up a research where we asked our customers if budget were not an issue, what would your next IT purchase be? The most popular response was, they said, and I quote, I would hire someone to come in and assess how we're doing and recommend the next things we should do to be more secure. Well, Microsoft Secure Score is a measurement of an organization's security posture, with a higher number indicating more improvement actions taken. It assigns you a numeric score and suggests ways to improve. It's like a security credit score, same as how a Fitbit shows your health. It's a full list of possible actions you can perform for security. But we need to also understand how improvement actions are scored. Each improvement action is worth around 10 points or less. If you implement the improvement action, like create a new policy or turn on a specific setting, you get about 100% of the points. Here are some tips that we recommend are the best practices for organizations to be secure in the cloud with their identity management. They can use security defaults or set up conditional access. They can exclude admin account from conditional access policies in order to avoid lockout, and then enable information registration for your users to give them a better user guided setup for MFA and self-service password reset. And lastly, you can make sure you test the policy on a testing group first in order to check if it pans out as per your expectations. Let's dive a little deeper in our recommendations now. Identity and device capabilities work together to secure access to your data. It's important to use consistent level of protection across your data, identities, and devices. For example, if you protect sensitive data at a higher level, be sure to protect the identities and the devices that access this data at a comparable level. Here are some basics you can follow. You can implement Azure Active Directory self-service password reset, which gives the users the ability to change or reset their password with no administrator or help desk involvement. If a user account is locked or they forget their password, they can follow prompts to unblock themselves and get back to work. This ability reduces help desk calls and loss of productivity when a user can't sign into their devices or an application. Secondly, we have combined registration which helps users to register for multi-factor authentication and self-service password reset. So these modules used to exist separately before, but now they're all together. It helps benefit for both enabling your users for both Azure Active Directory multi-factor authentication and self-service password reset. After that, we know for sure that accounts are assigned administrative rights are targeted by attackers. This is why we required multi-factor authentication for admins. Requiring multi-factor authentication on those accounts is an easy way to reduce the risk of those accounts being compromised. Microsoft recommends you require at least multi-factor authentication on the following roles at a minimum. Make sure that it's a global administrator. It can be a user administrator, a security administrator, or a billing administrator. After that, we have a recommendation for security defaults versus conditional access. Managing security can be difficult, with common identity-related attacks like password spray, replay, and phishing becoming more and more popular. Security defaults make it easier to help protect your organization from these attacks with pre-configured security settings by Microsoft, requiring all users to register for multi-factor authentication, mandating administrators to perform multi-factor authentication, and blocking legacy authentication protocols such as IMAP and POP3. It has been reported that big breaches has taken in place in past due to IMAP and POP3 legacy authentication protocols. So next up, we have requiring users to perform multi-factor authentication when necessary with conditions of location and device states. Protecting privileged activities like access to the Azure portal is also an important part of our recommendation. Lastly, we have password recommendation in which you can eliminate mandatory periodic password resets for user accounts, ban common passwords to keep the most vulnerable password out of your system, educate your system not to reuse the passwords for non-work related purpose, and then combine these guidelines with multi-factor authentication registration and risk-based challenges. Next up, we have Emo Protection. So, like many other forms of network security, Emo Protection is just one part of a complete cybersecurity architecture. However, many organizations tend to overlook the importance of email security unless it's too late. Email protection is important because of cyber threats like social attacks that target organizations via email and other communication channels. For example, phishing emails might trick users into giving up sensitive information, approving fake invoices, or downloading malware that can go on to infect your network. By compromising one person's email account, attackers can then send phishing emails out to all of that person's contacts. And that sounds really scary. So posing as the hijacked email's account owner to gain trust and spread the attack further is alarming at the same time. If the wrong email account is upserved or if the wrong recipient gets tricked, it could cause a data breach that can cost millions. And about 3.9 million in 2019, according to the one cost of a data breach study, was reported that it happened. So we need to make sure, due to that, we have a set of great recommendations that you can use for your organization as best practices to follow through for email protection. First, you can set up spoof filtering. You can block unknown email attachments, use encryption whenever available for your end-to-end security. You can create safety tips for users to get insight to alerts. You can use end-user spam notification, and you can make sure at the same time that unified auditing is enabled in order to always have insight to the user's email activity. We also have some advanced recommendation for email protection, which includes Exchange Online Protection. It is a filtering service that helps protect your organization against spam and malware. And you can implement spam and malware policies with that. And our first recommendation with Exchange Online Protection would be that you can use common attachment type filter and block out attachment that can harm your computer. Secondly, we have transport rules. In this recommendation, we have a suggestion that you can use ad warnings. You can label external emails coming into your organization through transport rules, which will append the email subject with the label external. Even though if the spam filter lets the email through, we can still identify if the email was spoofed or authentic. Lastly, we have a recommendation for DNS records. But in that, we have SPF, DKIM, and Dmarc. So DKIM is basically domain key identified null. It is used to ensure that the destination email system must trust messages sent outbound from your custom domain. It's a good practice to follow in order for your emails to not be marked as spam accidentally by the end user. And then we have Sender Policy Framework, SPF. It's an email authentication method that specifies that the mail server authorized to send emails for your domain, and it helps you protect against forged emails and make sure messages aren't marked as spam. And lastly, we have Dmarc, which is domain-based message authentication, reporting, and confirmance. It is a standard for email authentication, which helps mail administrator prevent hackers and other attackers from spoofing their organization and domain. When you use all three together, you get an authenticated method for your mail servers and for your ISPs to prove that the mail services and other receiving mail services the user is truly authorized to send the email. And when properly set up, you can have all the senders you can actually let them know through these configurations that it's legitimate. That's the first key factor that administrators look for whenever a spoof, a spam email or a malware email comes in. So that's your recommendation for that. Now, we have a last recommendation to combine advanced threat protection and Exchange Online Protection altogether. So combining these two features provides an additional layer of defense within email, both of which are intended to catch threats that may be known about the time of the message delivery. So you can use safe attachments, anti-phishing, safe links, and URL detonation. With safe attachments, you basically get a virtual environment to check attachments in the email messages before they're delivered to a recipient. This process is also known as detonation. As in the example given out in this image, the email comes in and then gets scanned out through Exchange Online Protection. And right after that, if the email has an attachment along with it and it has malware, it will scan that out in a virtual environment. And if it thinks it's a safe attachment, it'll send the email over to the recipient then, only then. And the next recommendation is anti-phishing. With the growing complexity of attacks, it's even difficult for trained users to identify sophisticated phishing messages. Fortunately, with Exchange Online Protection and Advanced Threat Protection, you can set up spoof intelligence and enable implicit email authentication to help yourself with tackling with phishing. And lastly, we have safe links. When a user receives an email, Advanced Threat Protection analyzes the URL for malicious behavior. So if the user clicks a link during the scan, the message would show up as the link is being scanned. If the link is identified as malicious after the scan, the pop-up windows opens up, notifying the user that the file is malicious and warns the user against opening it. So these are recommendations that you can use and merge all together to get a better and protected email security in your organization. So any questions on this so far, Nick?
Yeah. Someone was asking what the biggest difference that you see between Microsoft security and then third-party systems.
So the biggest difference on the top of the list would be this user security tips and reporting of users with advanced email protection. Like we mentioned, URL detonation and safe attachments, which are big features which we do not see with other email providers, which make Microsoft stands out from the email protection side of things. And I think that that's the major big differences between the email services that are out there.
All right, thank you.
So let's finally talk about endpoint protection. As the technology advances, many employees opt for working remotely or doing business activities on mobile devices and from off-site devices. As a result, the sensitive information of your organization is exposed to a greater risk each day. If you don't invest in proper endpoint security solutions, it's highly likely that your data will be breached. Moreover, the data provided by Absolute research indicates that more than 17% of all the data breaches are caused by vulnerabilities of endpoints. For that, Microsoft Endpoint Manager helps deliver the modern workplace and management to keep your data secure in the cloud and on-premises as well. Endpoint Manager includes the services and tools you can use to manage and monitor mobile devices, desktop computer, virtual machines, and servers. Here are some tips that we recommend are the best practices you can use for your organization for endpoint security. You can set up app protection policies. You can configure device cleanup rules to manage devices without clutter. Then you can enable group policies or device configuration policies to control your end user interaction with the devices while they deal with your corporate data. Lastly, we have the configuration for endpoint security policies, which helps you to establish firewalls, antiviruses, attack surface reduction, account protection, and endpoint detection and response. Now let's review Microsoft Endpoint Manager capabilities and what we can do with it. So Microsoft Endpoint Manager is a service that focuses on mobile device management, MDM, and mobile application management, also known as MAM. You can also configure specific policies to control applications. For example, you can prevent emails from being sent to people outside of your organization. It also allows people in your organization to use their personal devices for personal use or for work. On personal devices, it helps make sure your organization data stays protected and can isolate organizational data from personal data. But before we can start, we need to understand the approach on mobile device management, also known as MDM, and mobile application management, also known as MAM, and what capabilities we get through both. So MDM is when user enrolls their device in Endpoint Manager. Once the device is enrolled, they are called managed devices and can now receive any policies, rules, and settings used by an organization. For example, you can install specific apps, create a password policy, install a VPN connection, and much more. And then in reference, we have mobile application management, also known as MAM. It is designed to protect organizations' data at an application level, including custom and store apps as well. It can be used on organization-owned devices and personal devices at the same time. It does not require device management, so you can protect company data on both managed and unmanaged devices. In addition, app protection policies are applied only in a work context. So you can protect company data without touching any employee's personal data. Let's now take a closer look at how app-level policies for mobile application management can help keep company data and information secure. Let's say our user receives a work email through her managed Outlook account with an attachment of Excel spreadsheet containing information she needs for a report. Our user opens the attachment in her Excel mobile application to find the information she needs. She then wants to save the copy the info to add to her report. But when she tries to paste it into her personal notepad, it doesn't work. The personal notepad is not a managed app. And because we have applied policies that restrict copy, paste, and cut functions to only apps that are a part of the managed app ecosystem for endpoint enrolled devices. So our user then opens her Microsoft Word mobile app, which is managed by Endpoint Manager, and she's successfully able to paste her information. But let's say now she wants to save the working copy of her report to her personal OneDrive account so that she can access it from her home later on. Because her personal OneDrive account is not one of the managed applications, she's unable to save it here because we have applied policies restricting the ability to save only apps that are a part of the managed apps ecosystem. So our user must save her working copy to her managed OneDrive or business account, which means she does want to work on the support from another device. This device will have to be a device enrolled for management. So with remote and hybrid work, employees are increasingly using personal devices to access work data, and you may be concerned if your work data is secure. So Endpoint Manager is the only mobility management solution that can control Office with this much granular control without compromising on the end user experience. This is why Microsoft have multi-layered protection, which allows us to protect the data at the app level without the need for traditional containerization or sandboxing. And because we leverage the user identity in our approach, we can enable multi-identity usage of apps where app policies are intelligent enough to only apply to data applicable to corporate accounts on email-owned devices. Next up, we have Windows 10 Autopilot. In this scenario, you can implement automatic enrollment to Windows devices with a set of group policies, endpoint policies, compliance policies, and also the policies that are implemented in your organization. As an example, let's say you ordered a set of devices from your vendor, Dell, and now all you need to do as an admin would be you just need to import in the hardware ID in your endpoint manager and assign them to a user. Then you can continue shipping out those devices to your employees or end users. Whenever they will receive the device, all they need to do is just turn the device on. In the result, the window will automatically be installed in the device with the user account enrolled as per the assignment and the same set of policies that are being used for all of your other devices in the organization will be implemented. This helps you save time and reduces IT interaction at the same time. After that, we have device wipe policy. You can automatically set up a policy to wipe unresponsive devices which are not in use according to your baseline compliance policy, and only maintain the set of devices that are actively running on your corporate network. It helps you be more proactive and it helps you be more manageable on the side of security things from endpoint protection. Lastly, we'll discuss our main focus for this webinar, basically. So it's for business owners and admins to understand where they're investing in terms of security and how they have significantly improved their business productivity without any roadblocks if they take up these considerations. We know through many different researches that businesses today are re-evaluating their infrastructure so they can move faster and be more flexible. Adoption of cloud services from AWS to Google Workspace and now to Microsoft has been massive. But is it right for your business analytics? And is it right for your business security? So we'll let you know what are the factors you should consider in order to making a right decision. You need to be sure that the solution is fast and flexible with deployment so you can get started right away without buying any hardware, installing or configuring anything. It needs you to ensure that the security is a world-class security as security tends to be the primary concern that people have in moving to the cloud. So the surprise is that the security can improve with the transition to cloud, and the analytics can improve at the same time. This is where security and compliance report for Microsoft 365 help you ensure that information security across all your Microsoft 365 components provide hassle-free compliance on the go with various industry mandates, and also gives you the insight of the security investment or the budget that you have drafted out and dedicated towards your business security. So it offers reports in the following categories to meet your organization's security and compliance need. Examples are compromised user reports. We have malware detection and email reports. We have threat protection status report and auditing reports. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We'll be sharing more insight to the reporting in our upcoming webinars, so you can stay tuned. Thank you so much.
All right. So we don't have any questions, but I did want to launch a poll real quick. So after everybody's kind of seen everything, let's get some feedback here. What do you think will help you improve your organization's security levels? Do you just need larger budgets? Do you need that advanced security technology to be implemented? Or do you just need to train your employees? And is that going to be that biggest jump there? So we got a lot of votes coming in, and most of them say better employee awareness. So that's good to see, because that means you are taking the actual technology jumps there. You have those in place, and you just got to get your employees aware of those threats out there. So good to see. And then we do have a couple votes for larger budgets as well as advanced security technology. But yes, the majority, I think 80% of you are security awareness for your employees. So thank you very much for your feedback there. All right, so if you don't mind going to the next slide, Praman. Basically, after seeing all this, if you guys are looking to improve your security at your organization, we would love to talk to you. We would love to just give you that free security assessment, see what kind of tools you're using right now, and see what kind of gaps there are that need to be filled. And we can make some suggestions and recommendations to see how we can make your organization much more secure. Outside of that, we will be following up with you with the recording, as well as the slide deck, and then any other information that you may need. But if you go to the next slide, please, Kwaga, you can reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to talk, and we can figure out your security needs and help you guys become more secure. Otherwise, thank you very much for stopping by today and spending some time with us, and we look forward to talking with you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.